Hey Tumblr, this is Derek, PKA Mediocrities of Pedestrian. I wanted to share with you a little story slash inventory regarding some records that I got at a weird place called the Retro Room, I think, in Boardman, Ohio, a couple months ago. It's kind of a weird, very cluttered place full of a lot of weird, cluttery junk. And a lot of records. And a kind of weird old dude that ran the place. And he had lots and lots of records laying all over the place. Most not particularly organized in any way. A lot of them just stacked, which is not super awesome for them. But I spent probably a couple hours digging through all this shit and managed to find a pile of kind of interesting stuff. Now, the first thing I will say was I spent $90 there, and 60 of it was on 4 records, and they were these. This is a record by Pharoah Sanders. This one's called Karma, and here's another Pharoah Sanders, and yet another. This one's called Wisdom Through Music, and yet another Pharoah Sanders called Jewels of Thought. These are all originals on Impulse/ABC. And I found all these and asked the guy how much he wanted for them. And he said, you can have them all for $15 each, but that's only if you take them all. So I thought, okay, fine. And they already had these plastic sleeves on them. But to my horror, some of them do not have any inner sleeves. Well, maybe just one of them doesn't. Yeah. 2 of these do not have inner sleeves, and it scares me to take the record in and out of these sleeves, because these are kind of late 60s, like, cardboard sleeves, and I feel like the more I move the records in and out of these sleeves, the more they're going to get scratched up. So I really need to get some of those plastic-lined paper sleeves for these. I am out of them at the moment. Okay, so these 4 Pharoah Sanders records cost me $60. If you were to try to track each of them down on eBay, you might pay that much for one of them. I haven't looked them up on eBay since I got them, but the prices were generally in the 40+ range for these old ones on Impulse. Because shit that was on Impulse in the late 60s, early 70s. Sort of collectible, I guess, if you're into jazz from that era. And these are in fairly good condition. I mean, I have no interest in selling them. It's going to be a long time before I even listen to them, actually. I try to be fair in that I try to listen to things chronologically according to when I bought them, and it's going to be a while before I get to these. So, keep that in mind. These 4 records cost me $60. Now, on the other hand, that means the other 11 records I came home with cost me $30 total. Less than $3 each. And that's what makes me feel like this guy really didn't know what he was selling. Certain things he knew. He had a big shelf in the front of the store, like a magazine rack, with records that were like Hendrix, Beatles, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. He wanted to sell those all for $10 each. Because that's stuff that people would know, and my thinking is younger people that would walk into his shop wanting to buy records would think nothing of paying $10 for these records. I wasn't going to pay $10 for any of them. I picked out maybe one Led Zeppelin and a couple Hendrix that were posthumous ones that I kind of wanted to have. I wasn't going to pay $10 for them though. Condition they might have been in $10 condition. Not for me. So let him sell them to somebody who wants to pay $10 for them. I didn't want to. But all this other stuff, if if this guy knew what he was doing, and he's not a record seller per se. He buys junk. He gets junk from people's houses, dead people and stuff like that, and just finds a way to sell it. So he's not a record collector or a seller. So all this, these 11 records that he gave me for less than $3 each, if I were running a store, I probably would have sold some of these for $30. Who knows? But I'll show you some of the stuff I got. Here's a Steely Dan record, Countdown to Ecstasy, on ABC, as I've tried to get all the ABC pressings of all the Steely Dan records. Not that I'm a giant fan of Steely Dan, but I bought their first record at a thrift store one time for $1, and it was on ABC, so I was like, well, we'll just stick with the originals, if possible. There's another Steely Dan in here. Kenny Lied. So again, less than $3. This is an ABC. It turned out I actually already had a copy of Countdown to Ecstasy, but, whatever. I could trade one of them or sell one. I think the other one only cost me like $4. So, okay, 2 Steely Dan, less than $3 each. Nobody should really pay more than like $3 to $5 for a Steely Dan record anyways, but, this record by Bad Manners. Kind of funny, UK ska revival band, sort of two-tone. This record is on Magnet. I looked it up on eBay after I got this, and it was certainly going for more than less than $3, more than $3, more than $4. I think there were maybe 2 copies on eBay at the time for like $20, $30 each. I don't know. This double album by The Who, which contains both A Quick One and The Who Sell Out. This is on Track Records. Curiously, one of the records is stereo, and the other is mono. I forget which is which without pulling them out, but again, less than $3 for this. And love The Who, so that's all well and good. A David Gilmour record of Pink Floyd fame. I'm not really familiar with David Gilmour's work. He's a great guitarist, and who doesn't enjoy the songs that he wrote in Pink Floyd? And, it's less than $3. David Gilmour, we'll listen to it one of these days. Another record that it's good to get for cheap, the first album by George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Somewhere I have the second George Thorogood album around here. It might be in a box in my closet of old, kind of crappy records I got from thrift stores and stuff that I was never really going to listen to. But I might dig it up and reincorporate it into my collection. So, this is an okay record to get for $3, right? Okay, George Carlin, that I didn't have, On the Road. I have several George Carlin records. This was not one of them. This is one of the ones that was on Little David. Nice to find. I love comedy. I have a lot of comedy records. Who doesn't love George Carlin if you're into comedy? And less than $3 for this. Glad that I passed up on paying like $8 to $10 for it. Other times I've seen it. Speaking of comedy records, Bill Cosby, 200 miles per hour. One of the classic Warner Brothers era albums that I did not have. I have all the others that are depicted on the back cover of the sleeve here. Less than $3. Can't really go wrong with that for any Bill Cosby record. Here's a band I don't know how to pronounce. The Roches? Perhaps? This is not sealed. It is in the shrink. I listened to a little bit of this record on a really crappy record player that was in the store. And I was like, okay, I guess. I think maybe Robert Fripp plays on this somewhere. Somebody does. Fred Smith and J.D. Doherty. One was married to Patti Smith, and the other was in Patti Smith's band. Maybe Robert Fripp isn't on this one. He played on something of theirs. But anyways, another thing. This is an interesting find. The first album by Lucifer's Friend. This is an American pressing on Billingsgate. This is a record that my dad had, like, when he was in high school. They were a German, like, heavy rock, sort of progressive rock, like heavy. I always refer to it as beer drinking pot smoker rock, sort of like a kind of a Black Sabbath, that kind of a heavy rock thing. Um, it's not a super rare record, but you don't really see it ever, especially not for less than $3. This American pressing is apparently either quad or quad compatible. Apparently, all American pressings of this were, and I passed up buying it in the past at various prices because they were always quad, and I was like, are there no stereo copies of this record? Apparently, the only actual stereo version was the original German pressing on Philips, but this was not a huge fan of this record, but for the price, go find this on eBay for less than like $20. I dare you. Try. So that was a neat thing. And it's, again, I believe this is also like a white label, like a promo copy, and looks really super nice, especially for the price. Last thing was this album by The Beginning of the End called Funky Nassau. And it is very funky indeed. I listened to a little bit of it on the record player in the store. And I was like, well, that's funky. I'm down with it. Funny little story about finding this record. As I mentioned, the stuff in the store was not really organized in any particular way. But some of the stuff was kind of organized. I found this record on a chair that was close to the front of a row, back to front, of a bunch of records just sitting in a chair. And when I went to see what was in the chair, the guy who ran the store said to me, that's some new stuff I just got. It's mostly black. I guess he thought that I, being a white person, would not want to look at his black records. My fingers are dusty from handling these records I've been showing you. But anyway, I didn't know how to feel about that comment. I'm perfectly fine with his black music selection. There wasn't much in there that I was interested in, but this seemed an interesting item. And again, after I bought it, looked it up on eBay, to be had for about $20-ish or more. It's on Alston, not a label I've ever heard of, but it was manufactured and distributed by Atco, which was itself a division of Atlantic. This is an interesting little 70s funk curiosity, which in several months I might eventually listen to. So that was just a little story, inventory. I wanted to share with you some stuff I bought months ago. I thought about doing a video like this when I bought the records, because it seems a little weird to wait this long to do it. However, a friend of mine on Tumblr, Poetess in the Pit, posted a video the other day of some records that she owns. And I thought, well, that's a neat idea. Now it's going to maybe appear that I'm just stealing her idea of doing a video about records. I wanted to do it earlier. Kind of a lazy man. Didn't really get around to it. Plus I thought it was kind of dumb. In the sense that nobody would want to look at this and listen to this voice talk, or have to look at this. I'm not too into it myself right now. I have to watch this to make sure I'm in the frame and everything. I, for the record, was not attempting to vogue just then. It was just demonstrating the frame. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this thing. We are at 14 minutes and 15 seconds, which is plenty enough. But that's the thing about some records. A lot of them were really cheap and worth way more than I paid for them. Sometimes it pays to dig around in the shitholes you find old records in. This time it certainly did. That's my thing. See you later. In your dashboard, where I will exist on Tumblr. While you're scrolling, I'll be there. And here's the thing with me talking about those. See you later.